about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So, have you guys heard the acronym F.A.F.O? Many of us heard it today for the first time. I've heard it before because although I never abbreviated it, I would just say the full words. But Pete Hegseth was speaking to the military chiefs today in Virginia, and he alluded to his enemies, saying F.A.F.O. Now, I can't say it on air, but let's just change the F to mess. Mess around, right, and find out. And this phrase, it's funny. I didn't think about it till today when I was listening to Pete Hegseth and watching this, although it really went on kind of long. I think Trump kind of meandered for a while. He likes to, one thing about Trump is he has teleprompters, and then he decides, because he doesn't want to look like he's reading a speech, he wants to ad-lib, and then he goes off and he ad-libs, and then it just makes the speech kind of longer and he meanders more. But what Pete Hegseth said about, F.A.F.O, or mess around and find out, is something that we actually use a lot, whether it's in medicine, whether it's with parenting, but we don't say it. We don't use it a lot. With patients, I'm like, well, gosh, we need to maybe relook at your, drug use or some of your habits where you're not wearing a helmet and you're not wearing a seatbelt and you're not using a condom. We probably need to kind of look at these risky behaviors. And why aren't we just saying F.A.F.O? And we do in very colloquial, nice terminology. I mean, we kitten glove it, but maybe we do need to be more direct as it pertains to enemies. I mean, yeah, you mess around with America, find out. You'll find out. And I kind of like that. I'm tired of people peeing on us and pooping on us and not fearing us. And again, I have to be very, very careful because this is an XM satellite. I have to watch what I say, but I want our enemies to know, look, you mess around with us, you're going to find out. And I do like that attitude. It's a stance of defense. It's not we're going to go in there and be territorial and we're going to take over. We're going to, you mess with us or you mess around, you're going to find out. And when it comes to our health, that's something that I think we should maybe reword or use those words. I mean, patients, some of them, they really like the abruptness and the directness. Others are, well, she thought my weight, I was overweight, and she fat shamed me. And so now you have to watch every single thing you say. Because if you try to approach somebody's diabetes and their weight and their hypertension, if you don't say the right thing, they'll get all upset and where the olden days were like, look, you need to drop 40 pounds. You drop 40 pounds, you could drop the medication. We can't speak like that anymore. But I'm wondering if we need to go back to doing that, because look at people's health. I mean, if you're going to mess around, you're going to find out there's going to be issues. Right? You're going to get STDs. You're going to have unwanted pregnancies. You're going to have, you're going to aspirate your vomit because you drink too much. With our kids, I didn't say it directly. I mean, I cussed in front of my kids early on. I didn't mean to, but I didn't have time to find another word. My vocabulary, I don't have that big a breadth of vocabulary. So when it came to the kids, I used the words. And I remember them arguing with me on my attitude towards something they were doing. And they were trying to make me feel like my response was exaggerated and unfounded and that it wasn't a big deal. And I think it was something they were doing at school, or they were they were getting in trouble in school or whatever. And so I go, look, you know how I feel. blank around and you'll find out. And I didn't say it like that. I think I used more profanity. But I go, look, I'm not mad. You know where I stand. I've already told you I've drawn the line. You want to test me? You test me. I've already told you what you're going to expect. I'm going to be bringing the rain. So you know what to do. If you choose to do that, there's going to be that consequence. Or you could play it smart and not choose that. You could see them think, wait, how do I get around this? And I tried to convince mom to not do that consequence, but it looks like that's not going to work. And so, I think I could find this relevant in most of life, but we don't speak like that. I know there's going to be a lot of criticism of Pete Hegseth. Well, he went off and he used cuss words and he didn't. And I understand. People are split on him being the Secretary of War and whether people like him or not. But I tell you, I like the directness. I like the idea of physical fitness coming back into the military. I like the fact that we want our enemies to fear us. We don't want our friends to fear us, but we definitely want our enemies to fear us. And not fear us like, they're going to die. But look, you do the right thing. But if you're going to mess around, we're not going to be weenies about it. You're going to take hostages and behead and kill people like you did on October 7th, 2023, and invade Israel, attack them, and commit a massacre. We're not going to stand by. Okay? We're not going to treat you and reward you with your own state. You mess around, you find out. And so what I want you all to do, this is your homework, is there something you're doing that is kind of dinking around, okay? And have you been lucky where you haven't really had the consequence, but you're on the verge of getting that consequence? Because I got to tell you, when I see people mess up, whether they cheat on their spouse or whether they cheat on a test or whether they break the law, you see them go, if I would have made the right decision a minute prior. So take a look at what kind of some of the behavior you're doing and see if maybe now's the time to reverse it. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, don't go away.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So we're going to be getting a little bit of breaking news in a minute. President Trump is announcing a pricing deal with Pfizer. As you know, Pfizer is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies that has given us Viagra, given us the COVID vaccine, given us the Z-Pak, Lipitor, Norvasc, a bunch of medications. And Pfizer is also working on a weight loss drug. And so once we get a little bit of that information right now, they're discussing it. As soon as we get more clarity on that, I will give you the latest. One thing that Trump had said today when he was speaking to the generals was how cancel culture is over. And I want to speak a little bit about that. I don't get scared easily. I don't get intimidated. I don't really care what people think about me. But I got really nervous about what was happening a few years ago as it pertained to cancel culture. And I did not like what I saw. And I was nervous about it. When I saw that people were losing their jobs, I was working at a place where people were kind of hiding and having secret meetings to be able to just talk about Trump because they didn't want, the boss or somebody to snitch to the boss that they were conservative. When you started to see grown men and women have that fear and you're like, this is America, that made me nervous. Having friends who are middle-aged fear that they were going to lose their job because they lived in California and they had to pretend that they were anti-Trump so that they wouldn't get fired. I mean, these are things that that could lead to even worse behaviors if America as a society allows that to continue. And it wasn't just people losing jobs. It was people getting silenced. Oh, you saw, News 3, local News 3 had wanted me to talk about a new COVID drug. This was before Paxlovid came out. Merck had molnupiravir. And so I always do a tease on social media saying, look, I'm going to be on the news talking about this. Tune in. So I said, I'll be on News 3 talking about molnupiravir, a new treatment for COVID. Well, I got an immediate ban on Facebook. And it took a while to appeal, and I couldn't access, I couldn't post, and I had to show them. I go, look, this is a headline, and NBC News is a more liberal outlet. I'm talking about a headline, but their algorithms were just so rigid and non-flexible that. If you do rely on social media to be in touch with family members or for work or for income, luckily I don't. I've never allowed myself to be that dependent on social media. I use it and it's nice, but I'm not going to make myself that vulnerable. But there's individuals that are very vulnerable by that. And just because they thought that I was suggesting something against the grain, that was along the same line as, let's say, ivermectin, they were quick to cancel me. Well, that's frightening. YouTube, same thing. I have to be very careful about what I talk about in terms of vaccinations, et cetera. In fact, there's a radio host that gave a list of terms to radio hosts to use so that they don't get kicked off YouTube because of the algorithm. And that's not cool. And it's not only cancel culture, but it's also tech, and it's also the laziness now of these companies relying on algorithms and AI and everything else. But the cancel culture really bothered me. Now, I'm noticing people are feeling a lot more relaxed, and they are, being a lot more free, which I think they should be. And all the power to you. Please feel free to support that. We are not a fascist regime or a communistic society, or where all we have is one ruler and all we have is one political party. We want to have diversity of ideas and thought, and we want to have discourse and debate. This is something that makes America so great, but it could change. And so many people feel like, okay, Trump won the election. Thank God. We could support Trump. We're going to proudly wear our hats. You saw Nick Bosa wear his Make America Great Again hat. You saw Tom Brady have his Make America Great Again hat in his locker room years ago. And seeing people say, I don't care. I dare you to cancel me. Do it. Fine. There's some freedom that we're having right now. But what's going to happen in 4 years? And I'm seeing some apprehension of people trying to enjoy this freedom that they're having right now because they're concerned that it's going to change and anything they post or were, shall we say, open or transparent about is going to come back and haunt them. Now, what Trump has done in terms of, I do give him credit with the cancel culture because he was able to overcome multiple court cases and judgments against him and 2 assassination attempts. And he's still here. He was able to make a comeback with the election. And, how do you cancel more than half of the country when they voted for him? So it was huge, but it wasn't curative. And I am still seeing cancel culture, and I am still seeing discrimination, and I am seeing behaviors that make me nervous that it's just a snake waiting to come back and rear its ugly head. And so what do we do? Well, one, not be in a position where you're being canceled will hurt you. Now, that's easier said than done. But if you are, if you work in Hollywood, if you work for academia, if you work in certain, government sectors, that could come back to bite you. And you will be vulnerable. But what you can do is become less vulnerable with your social media footprint. You become less vulnerable with who your friends and contacts are, because I think it is going to come back. I don't want it to. But what I saw with human behavior, if you aren't with us, you're against us, that's going to come back. And this is why you see these stars, try to still check the box and say the woke things, because I think that they know that once Trump leaves, it's coming back. And they want to play it safe. You see, the right isn't cancel culturing people. So they have nothing to lose to say, you know what, let me check the box with the left, do my woke thing, I'll be safe. And what worries me is I'm starting to see this in medicine. Apparently, a lot of doctors now work for companies as opposed to having your own practice. And so I'm seeing them go, well, we need to be anti-RFK Jr. Why do we have to be anti-RFK Jr.? Ooh, if I look like I support him, that's not good. Well, don't you want titanium dioxide taken out of our foods? Don't you want our kids to not be obese? Don't you want us to reevaluate which vaccines are necessary at 6 months of age if COVID isn't and we need to save it for the vulnerable population? Isn't that something we doctors want? Don't we want to salvage Medicaid dollars and not waste them on able-bodied individuals who have no kids, no medical issues that could be working? But that's not what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing people in the medical community say, well, we got to be anti-RFK Jr. And yeah, I kind of spoke out about that, saying, but I think, though, yeah, they want to fire him. People, they're trying to write letters to get him fired. And look, you might not like him. You might not think he's the most qualified, but can we have him, get the food preservatives out of our food first before you fire him? Can we, do some of the things that I think have been long overdue as it pertains to our health and our kids? So I'm telling you, cancel culture is going to come back. Just make sure you're not in a vulnerable position. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one thing that this administration has promised to do is to crack down on the exorbitant drug prices. And when people would ask me, Daliah, why are medicines cheaper in Mexico than here? Why are they cheaper in Canada? I can't tell you how many of my patients would have to go out of the country to go and get their medications. And the answer was multifaceted, but to make it simple, it was because the drug companies get us to pay it. The drug companies get Americans to spend more so they can offer it to other countries cheap. And President Trump has been challenging these sort of deals where America will pay more, America will get screwed. And no, it's getting ridiculous. So if you remember a few months ago, he demanded that all pharmaceutical companies give us the same price as the most favored nation, where rather than we pay the most, this is of developed countries, where we pay no more than their most favorite country, whether it's Germany, whether it's Italy's prices, whether it's Mexico's prices or Canada's prices, they charge the U.S. the same. I think that sounds great. Now, there was, of course, critics. And, Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. Trump's not going to make that happen. So there was a deadline. The deadline was September 29th. And so I was intrigued to see how the government was going to do that, or how these companies, these pharmaceutical companies were going to do it. And if they were going to just, give Trump, the finger or not. So apparently the first of them, and I think more to come, is Pfizer. Now, Pfizer, as we said before, Pfizer gave us Paxlovid. Pfizer gave us one of the COVID vaccines. They've given us Viagra and Z-Pak and Zyrtec and Catalid and Lipitor and Norvasc and all sorts of drugs, Zoloft, and there's so many, and they have a lot of medications, gene therapies, cancer therapies, hemophilia, and some of their medications are really, really costly. In fact, I think Paxlovid costs $1,200 a course. they sold it to the the U.S. government, I think, for $539 a course for the 5-day course for COVID, but still, it's a lot of money, which is why, sadly, not a lot of people are getting Paxlovid, which I think can be very, very helpful in terms of combating COVID. But drug makers were given until yesterday to respond to Trump's most favored nation executive order. Requires all companies to sell drugs in the U.S. at the lowest price they sell in other developed countries, establish direct-to-consumer avenues, and not sell new drugs for lower prices in other countries. Pfizer, according to President Trump, said it's committing to offer all of their prescription medications to Medicaid. It will be at the most favored nation prices. It's going to have a huge impact on bringing Medicaid costs down like nothing else. He had sent requests to 16 other drug makers in his executive order, and so we'll see if these other ones follow their lead. Trump also said, according to The Hill, that Pfizer would also sell some of its most popular medications to all consumers at heavily discounted prices. He said these drugs will be available for direct purchase online at a website operated by the federal government. The website will reportedly be called Trump RX. It's unclear what drugs will be made available or how widely they will be accessible yet, but Trump RX. As we get more information, I will let you know. In the meantime, Pfizer stock is going up. So, yeah, I had to check on that. It's interesting. We're people are kind of criticizing Trump for having his name on everything. He says that the new jet, the F-47, that was the name that came from Boeing. He didn't come up with it, but he liked it. The reason why you're going to see his name on these things is because I think he was blown away by how after his first term, so much of what he did got reversed or forgotten. And he wants to have a legacy. And if he is able to get drug prices down, and it's on, although I'm sure, whoever the next president is might change it. Just like when Hillary Clinton was running for office, she wasn't going to double down on Obamacare. Hillary Care was something that she came up with way before Obamacare. So, of course, she was going to come up with her own sort of healthcare system. Why, just perpetuate Obamacare? Why not let her name be in there? So I'm not surprised seeing Trump's name on things because, it was an erasing of his legacy and what he did in office that he wants to hopefully reverse. That's why we have the Gulf of America. That's why, there's these things that are being done. There's going to be the ballroom. It's really hard to cancel out a president when there are these things that are done, although somebody could tear it down like they tore down the wall. But, if it's called Trump RX, I don't care as long as we're getting lower drug prices. So, the one thing I can describe this administration is, as it pertains to the health and what's happening in terms of, food additives and childhood obesity and physical fitness is it's about time. I mean, it's about time somebody, looks into what our pregnant women could be doing that could be risky. I mean, we doctors who knew that there were risks with medications. Why wasn't there, why wasn't there more education given? And, people say, well, as long as the doctors know, but you forget many people don't have a doctor anymore. They lost their doctor after Obamacare. So you have a lot of pregnant women that become pregnant and they don't have a physician or a midwife or a medical provider. It used to be, well, you saw your gynecologist all the time. You saw them yearly, you get your pap smears, etc. So you had a gynecologist or a primary care. Now the average person is finding out they're pregnant and they don't have a primary care provider or a gynecologist. So they now try to find one and they can't get in with one till May of next year. So luckily there's OBs that are taking new patients, but then who is advising these individuals when they're in their first trimester or second trimester before they get in with the medical provider what they can and cannot do and what's safe? And when you have over-the-counter medications, there are some over-the-counter medications pregnant women should not take, or they should only take if they really need it, so the lowest dose possible. So my answer to all of this is it's about time. It's about time. I think drug prices have been ridiculous. Now, starting with Medicaid is crucial because we are struggling to fund Medicaid. And these medications are expensive. If Paxlovid costs, $1,200 a course, I mean, you could go through the money pretty quickly. If these weight loss drugs are $1,000 a month, you know, we don't have enough tax dollars to pay for all these expensive medications. In fact, I think there's one sort of gene therapy that Pfizer has that I think costs $225,000. Let me see here. I think that's a month. Sorry about that. My computer is slow. And it's a cardiovascular drug. These are not sustainable. A hemophilia medication. It's $3.5 million. Becvez. Zolgensma. $2.1 million. It's a one-time gene therapy to treat spinal muscular atrophy. Now, if I had spinal muscular atrophy, I would want the drug, but $2.1 million? This drug is considered the world's most expensive. Tafamidis, $225,000 per year. And that treats transthyretin amyloidosis. It's a form of heart failure. So yes, we cannot be paying more than other countries. It's about time. Let's keep this going. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. You know, we've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one of my listeners wants to be anonymous, wants to know when we're going to get rid of this work-life balance request that the younger generations have when they apply for a job. See, this work-life balance thing, I'm mixed on, guys. And I tell you why. On one end, yes, I think it is kryptonite for a Gen Z to apply for a job. And when the employer says, what do you want from this job? And they say, I want work-life balance. Yeah, there's a good chance they might not get hired. But why are Gen Zs or younger millennials asking for work-life balance? It's because those of us who are Gen X, like me, or baby boomers, have been miserable. And we showed our kids and the younger generation what not to do. You know, when I was in medical school, I remember I was so excited. I think I was on hour number 27 in a 36-hour shift. And we were in clinic, and the attending says, okay, go see the next patient. And I got it. And I'm all bebopping down the hallway. And he goes, you might want to save some of that energy because you're going to be burned out in 10 years. And I go, oh, never. God, I had so much energy in my 20s. And he's like, we all get burned out, especially ER docs. You're going to get burned out. I'm like, no, I'm not. And I thought I would never. I'm the Energizer buddy. And I got burned out. And it wasn't burned out where I didn't want to work anymore. It was burned out. My definition of burnout for me was, wait a second, what am I sacrificing here? So I told you, I went back to work after my first child, 2 weeks after giving birth. After my second child, 3 days. Running a medical office was torture. When I had staff that wouldn't show up or didn't do their job, the good staff, amazing. I mean, you're only as good as your staff. Grateful for the good staff. But when you had staff that wasn't good, you had to pick up the slack. And I remember coming to work when it was dark and leaving when it was dark. And some days I'd be there till 10 at night because when you're a doctor, you can't do anything half-assed. And I wanted to make sure everybody got their calls. You wouldn't get paid for phone calls. Now there's telemedicine codes and you could get, but I would be doing phone calls for free. A lot of what I did was for free. Meanwhile, my kids are growing up and I'm missing their baseball games. I'm missing their soccer games. I'm missing the Christmas pageants. I'm missing things. But I'm like, you know what? This is the life I chose. It's about the patients. Well, then you started to see most of my patients absolutely phenomenal. And you know what? I would do it again. But there were some patients where, and I've told you some of these cases, where, late, it's after work on a Friday, somebody's banging on the door saying they need to be seen. They're having vaginal itching. So me and my nurse, I told my nurse I'd pay her overtime. Can we just take care of her? And we did. We did a pelvic exam. We did a vaginal culture. I gave her medication. Well, apparently her insurance, said she owed like $45 or something. So she decides to lie to the insurance company and say she never saw me, that I billed her without seeing her. And so I get this call from the insurance company, and I said, before we begin, I cannot wait to answer all your questions. But before we begin, can you just answer me one question? And they say, sure. And I go, did you pay LabCorp, the lab, for a vaginal culture and an STD screen for that same day? And the specimen was done at, I think it was like 1800. It was about like 6 p.m. They said, oh, yes, we did. I'm like, all right, now I'm ready to answer your questions. They go, you know what? We have no more questions. So, seeing patients lie, that started to make me go, whoa, 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 whoa. What am I doing here? My kids are at home crying. Where's mom? I'm not seeing them grow up. And I'm staying late for a patient that is going to turn around and lie and try to get me in trouble just so they don't have to pay their $45. There was a kid who was tired, and I ran some blood work. The child's white count was low. I think it was a 10-year-old child. So I ran an HIV test, and the child I ended up diagnosing with HIV. We got them in with a specialist. Child was able to be treated. Apparently, the mom's balance was, I think, $14. Rather than calling up and thanking us, for saving her child's life, and because nobody else would have done an HIV on a kid test, she was complaining and giving my billers a hard time because she got a $14 bill. And look, I get if, people have financial issues, there's a way to do that without being rude to the billing staff. But these are the things that burned me out. And it's not that I didn't want to work. It's that I was thinking to myself, you know what? I think I'm going to make different choices. And I think family's going to come first. Family should have always come first. So now you have Gen Zs or millennials say, okay, I'm not going to do what my mom or dad or aunt or grandparents did. I'm not going to turn 40 and have nothing to show for it except, working for a company that, blew me off or whatever. And so can you blame the younger generation for asking for that? And I can't tell you how many times my kids are like, Mom, did you love your job? I go, oh, I loved my job. Yeah, I would do it. You'd do medicine again? Oh, absolutely, 1,000%. Well, then why were you so unhappy? I go, was I unhappy? The younger generation is looking at us older individuals like, you guys are crazy. My shift at an urgent care was supposed to be 11 to 11, so I would say goodbye to my baby. He was only, I think, 8 months old. Maybe, no, 6 months old. 6 months old. I'd say goodbye to him at 10:45 in the morning if he was awake. And whenever you do a shift at an urgent care, you don't leave at 11. You leave at 1, 2 in the morning because the patients will come in at the last minute. I didn't get to see my kid grow up, And so, for those of you that want to spend time with your baby, I don't blame you. Where I would caution you is expecting somebody to pay for that, though. You're not going to get, a full-on salary for not working. Which means if you want work-life balance, you're going to have to find the type of job that allows you to be with the kids, allows you to go to their games, go to their holiday or Christmas pageants, allow you to be there, for the parent-teacher conferences, allow you to go skiing when there's fresh powder up on the nearby mountain. Or you might have to be okay with less pay. The job I do now with telemedicine is less pay than I had when I ran my office, but I am so much happier. Because if I want to take my dog to the vet, I can now take my dog to the vet. I could take them for a walk. I could clean up the pee-pee that they do because the new dog doesn't want to go out the dog door. And the new dog really, really needs a talking to when I get home because she refuses to go outside and go pee-pee. She really prefers the nice cold tile that I slip on. So, work-life balance is important, but not the easiest thing to ask for. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.